It's wonderful. For the first time, we are having a session in the morning on our platform. So I think this is the first. I think we had one storytelling session on a Sunday morning. Other than that, I think this is the first time we are having a session with an author and an interview in the morning cover. So welcome everybody to our wonderful platform, Create and Narrate. And today, like we promised you last week, we are going to line up a series of authors and best-selling authors of international repute. And on June, this is the first author speak that's happening. And we are very, very happy to have a wonderful Indian Navy veteran, Commander Srinivas Ji amidst us, to be our first author to be featured in this month. And last week, of course, we had our Create and Narrate co-founder, Manvinder Ji. She, already is a Amazon #1 best-selling author and a Golden Book Award winner. She shared her wonderful story of how she has created a book, and then she also has trained some of her coaches to also do an ebook. So that was a very interesting conversation about uploading God and 12 Shades of Love and so on and so forth, and the different nuances of how to do fiction writing. In fact, post that session, she had a 3-day workshop exclusively for children between 8 to 15 years. And then it was a fantastic success. It concluded yesterday. So Create and Narrate is making a big splash in storytelling and how to write creatively. So thank you, Manvinder Ji. And today, let us all put our hands together and welcome Commander Srinivas Ji. Sir, thank you for taking time out and joining us on this platform. You are already a mentor and you give a lot of insights on our platform. So let me welcome you formally. And I would love to say that my first self-published book, or my third book, happened because of you. And I am very, very grateful to you for that, for having introduced me to the publisher. And yesterday I got a news that I became the Amazon bestseller, #1 bestseller. And I think half of the credit goes to you, sir. Thank you so much. And let me read a little bit, because you have a wonderful profile. So I'm just making sure that I have the important points with me so that I don't miss out. Here we go. Commander M. Srinivas Raoji is an alumni of University of Hyderabad. He's a physicist and a veteran of the Indian Navy with 42 years of experience in the field of education. So that is how I met him when we were training for Wipro Mission 10X on employability skills. That's the first time I met, maybe it was in 2010, if I'm right. 2011, I think, Commander Srinivas Rao. I met him in a training program in Hyderabad, and then he had taken up principal's post in some of the best schools in and around Hyderabad and other towns. And he used to call me wherever he used to be a principal of any education institution. He used to call me and invite me to talk to the teachers and train them on some of the teaching skills. So I'm really, really thankful for having him in my life and his constant encouragement. He's also doing a lot of management training for 21 years after the naval service. He is now looking at how to become a leadership coach and how to look at political aspirants, especially youngsters, because India needs fresh minds and young blood in politics. So that is what he is right now doing. But that is something that is of recent things. But look at his experience. He has been the head of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan in Hyderabad, the Ramakrishna Vidyalaya, Secunderabad. He has been the head of Hyderabad Public School in Kadapa, Andhra Pradesh. He has also been the Associate Vice President Training and Quality of Apollo Medicals Limited, Hyderabad, a healthcare training organization. So that is the rich experience Commander Srinivas Rao brings to today's discussion. Once again, thank you, sir, and namaskar, and welcome to our platform. And may I ask you to share your opening remarks, because today we are going to talk about a wonderful book. I had the opportunity to read it even before it went to print. It is called The Secrets of Resilient Interpersonal Relationships and Unfolding Through Gandhian Thought. So that is the book that we are going to talk about. It's your latest book. So please share your thoughts on how did you go about conceiving this book, and when did you get this thought and how did you complete this? When did you publish it and so on? Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Muthu, for your kind words and appreciative words. And in fact, I'm like any one of you, most of you, all the coaches and leaders and trainers and teachers. So I do believe that every teacher has a leadership quality, but essentially all leaders are essentially teachers. I would put it that way. Okay. Now, in the course of my time, I found that for success of any organization, the team is very important. The team which is working, there can be one team, two teams, empty number of teams based upon size of the organization and objectives of the organization. So this book is essentially, outcome of my experiences put in a logical manner. It is empirical research based in the sense, whatever I experimented with my colleagues, that is what I put it, that outcome, both negatives and positives put together, what best can happen. And what happens is, like when I said team, like there's so many ups and downs in the span of, organizational activities. So very often what happens is if organization leadership does not take proper care of this, many good team members, they leave the organization and join a better one, which is lost to the organization. So what is binding people together is the relationships between the team members. The stronger the relations, I'm talking about functional relations, but relations in the workplace. Of course, it will overlap into personal relations also. We cannot really stop it. But more importantly, the relations between the people who are working for the organization with common objectives of the organization. When management is detached from this, or if the people feel that management is having something else in their mind but not really pursuing the objectives, then the team disappears. Many talented people will leave, not only for higher money, for a better working environment, for self-respect, etc. So in this context, then I also happen to have gone through Gandhi's achievements because Gandhiji was alone. He is not a party man as such. He brought all the people together under one umbrella to fight for the freedom of the country, irrespective of different ideologies. So what he followed was like he set himself an example, and it is based upon the trust. All the differences are to be resolved amicably. That is like something called peace and harmony. And there should be a sense of justice, dignity of labor. So I've tried to look at from this perspective. So what I've done was like I can say it is direct, life experience with my colleagues in different places, Karimnagar, Hyderabad, Kadapa, and empty number of training institutions of Apollo Medical. So it is broad-based. About school system has got about 150 sample size, and Apollo Medical training centers have got about 100. So the book emerged from that. Then I thought this is very useful for all CEOs, all the decision makers, more importantly. So that's how the book has come into light. And as luck would have had it, initially, I didn't have planned to write a book. I published those things as a paper, research papers. Then last year, I think 2021, April, Mr. Kailasji had and Deepak Parbat had they organized one free seminar in Hyderabad. I attended that in one-day boot camp also. That was followed by COVID and etc. So I could not pursue. But subsequently, in fact, no, I might have introduced that author to you, publisher to you, but you dragged me into TLC group when I was in Siddipet. Joining TLC was not really in my agenda because I've chosen bring the political leaders into the domain, so that doesn't really fit into any standard template of a classical coach or trainer. So there are a lot of that's why that milestones also many of the milestones don't fall into my path.
Okay, so thank you, sir, for your opening remarks and a bit of background about the book. Maybe some of the listeners on Facebook who don't know TLC, who don't know what are milestones, may be wondering what these things that we are discussing about. So let me just give a quick update on that. Of course, the reason why I dragged you into TLC is because teachers are leaders and you were planning to coach aspiring leaders. So the moment I heard about that, I thought you were the best person to be part of this community. because this community called Teachers and Leaders is a space where authors, coaches, trainers, mentors, anyone who makes an impact on people's lives, anyone who, like you said, anybody is a leader and everybody is a leader if they are able to inspire and motivate others to take some action. So I thought that is a given, because you were already a leader, you were already grooming leaders, and you had aspiration to make an impact even on the political scenario of the state. So I thought some of the skills that we talk about here might help you somewhere in your scheme of things. And milestones is what we track of how many things we do in our journey as a coach, like right from deciding on our niche, like you are a leadership and a life skills coach. Manvinder ji is a script and a story fiction writing coach. Parul ji is still finding her niche. So I am a change and transformation coach. So we take our niche and then we look at what are the work that we are doing, and then what we need to do step by step to build an online and an offline program. So that is what these milestones are all about. And we hope by helping each other in the community, we can be accountable to each other's milestones journey. We can handhold each other, support each other in our journey to impact the lives of millions of people. So that's the wonderful vision with which we are all part of this community. And Create and Narrate also happened because of one such collaboration from the community members. You are here because all the four of us are in some way associated with Create and Narrate. So thank you, sir. Maybe since you started off talking about you dragging me into Wings publication and me dragging you into TLC, I will take the opportunity to ask the first question. I read your book. In fact, I also gave my first thoughts, which you so kindly published even before your book went for print. You have included my feedback in advance prices for the book. So I'm thanking you for that. One thing I noticed is I read everything. Most of the time when we look at authors, they have some reason why they have decided to publish a book. And when I actually went through your book, it was like a research paper. In fact, I did not go through your book in the sequence with introduction and then about the book, about the author, chapter 1, chapter 2. I didn't go about like that. You'll be very surprised to find out that I went in a very haphazard way. I started with the appendix because that is where the research inputs were there. All the experience that you shared, the investigation that you did in the education sector and the health sector, the inputs that you got from your surveys, and then how you created that. Then that had a link with the chapter 3. So I did the appendix and then I went to chapter 3. And then I went to chapter 7 and 8 because I'm a psychology student. I loved the concept of perception and personality, the inputs that you gave there. So after appendix and chapter 3, I went to chapter 7 and 8. And then I jumped to chapter 4 and 5. So if you look at the sequence, I had my own sequence in how I went about your book. So it was the research inputs, the practical ideas that you came up, which you discussed in the book, and then the psychological aspects of why interpersonal relationships, the perceptions of people, how we are different, how our personality has a role to play. And very, very interesting insight I got. Even though I've been a trainer, I train on a lot of management topics. Intrapersonal skills, the ability to be self-aware, the ability to be aware of our own personality using a lot of tools and techniques should be kind of a predisposed, let us say, a skill that we should all have. So intrapersonal skill will help us to become more interpersonally intelligent. So I love the way you brought in those concepts, and very practically that too, and very easy for even a non-psychology student to understand. That was brilliant. And then your own concepts of how the different forces are acting, taking a leaf out of your scientist background, being a physicist, you've taken some wonderful scientific analogies and applied it on the interpersonal skills. That was also fantastic. The kind of diagrams, the kind of analogies, the kind of explanations, examples, tables, just a lovely, easy read. I think even for a layperson, anybody who wants to aspire to be a leader, any teacher, any entrepreneur, any manager or leader should read this book. That is what I understood after going through. And I was actually searching as I was going through your book, where is this Gandhian thought? Suddenly I found that it is in between, in one of the chapters you have explained. what are the different vows of Gandhi and how Gandhian principles are important for all these concepts. It was like one thing that touched everything upon those principles were kind of a summary. It was right in the middle of the book. It was like the heart of the book. So it was a really wonderful journey. I don't know how people go about reading their book, but if anyone gets the hands on your book, I would suggest the same kind of sequence to really enjoy the entire essence of your book, right? So the first question comes like this. You talked about perceptions, you talked about personality. What would be your ideal coaching? Let us say you train a lot of leaders, political leaders. What kind of personality factors do you look for in an aspiring political leader? So can I ask you that?
Yeah, firstly, in Indian context, a politician, a serious politician should understand Indian constitution, the spirit of it thoroughly, which has got a lot of values in it, like the fundamental rights and fundamental duties and whatever preamble says. Once he understands and imbibes them, then his contribution to society will be more meaningful. Instead of getting self-centered around spending 10 crores for a seat and again amass another 20 crore to contest next election, that doesn't really, help the nation to move forward. We need a professional politician, in the sense that he should take it as a mission of his life rather than right now there are some people, but not all. So that is what is important thing. That is where again a politician should also assess himself, he has to draw his own personality profile and map himself, so that and then adopt a suitable ideology. See, ideology is means. The goal is the same. Goal is to achieve the wonderful harmonic society, well-developed society within the framework of Constitution of India, which is very well envisaged. So there are many parts of doing it. Everybody need not follow the same path and they don't get into the same train. So it is in this context that a leader has to assess himself, and there's room for every type of person. His only style is different. The content is same that way.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you. That was very useful. So I remember when I was just listening to you, I remember that it seems a politician from, I don't know which country, I think it was some Southeast Asian country. The premier of that country came to India and he asked a group of politicians when he was addressing them, what do you all do? And most of them said, we do politics. And he said, no, I'm asking you, what do you do for a living? And everybody said, we do politics for a living. And he was like, my God, I am a farmer and I also do politics. Basically, I take care of my own livelihood with whatever I'm doing, whether I'm a teacher or a farmer or a businessman. And being a politician is because I want to serve the country. So he had a concept that it is not a job. As you rightly said, it is what you want to dedicate of your time to the public, so that you are building your, giving your service in the nation building. So that is what comes to my mind. I don't know who that leader was, but I remember that story very clearly. This is the question that happened and the answer that happened. So that is what I understood. People, whatever their physical or personality characteristics are, the key, as you rightly said, is the constitutional framework is there. We have a wonderful democratic country. The capability to serve, the capability to bring that freshness and to make our country great. That kind of service-mindedness is what you look for in your coaches as political aspirants. So wonderful thought. Now, I think it is time for me to give my fellow panelists a chance to ask a few questions. Who would like to go first? Manvinder or Parul, please go ahead.
Okay, so welcome Srinivas. It's an honor for us to have you on the Create and Narrate platform today. And it's a wonderful start of the day when we are discussing about intrapersonal relationships and we are getting to know your wisdom. While Muthuji was discussing about your book, he specifically talked about some intrapersonal skills and the Gandhian thought. I am particularly interested that when you talk about these intrapersonal relationships, why did you think, or what was the thought behind this Gandhian perspective? What was that one factor which really brought into that Gandhian perspective? So can you throw some light on that?
Yeah, see, Gandhi has accommodated all types of thoughts into his team of people who are working for the freedom of the country. And those who differed with him, they parted away, but still he didn't hold them in any grudge. For example, Netaji differed with him and he thought a different, path should be followed. Though he has not very much advocated militancy, but when he chosen, he has not forced them to, did not treat them. That is one. Plus, no, whatever he preached little bit, he practiced. So there is a trust. So plus, he was self-correcting also. There, by his own admission, he said that he has done a lot of things wrong. He keep on correcting it. And also consistency, he said, is not his virtue, because what today I've done what he thought is, for example, in the first civil disobedience, he followed one path. When those people indulged in violence, he immediately called it off. He said that is not the path. In Chora Chauri, that is a basic campaign, when agitators they burned one police station, then he called it off. But again, he has not stopped it. Thereafter, after some 1 month or so, again he started cautioning the people that path will not follow, because he believed one thing, the means are as important as the ends. If people say, no, whatever, come what, I mean, do whatever you want, but I want the result. That's not the correct perspective, because means must also be legal and should be defined to achieve the ends. That is what is the basic concept.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for clearing on that. And my next question is, or I would like to ask you that, which other national leader or international leader are you so much more inspired from, apart from Gandhi or somebody else?
Okay. See, one is political spectrum. In a non-political spectrum, Netaji is one. Netaji is more of a military leader than a politician, because he did not come out with any political theory as such. And like Nehru also, I liked him, impressed. And then to a great extent, to some extent, I would say Indira Gandhi, because when you were in 10th class onwards, Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister of India, and she was the, she did quite a few good things for the country. Opposition apart, that is different. I'm not talking politically right or wrong anything, but when it comes to the development of nation under those circumstances, we are dealing under famine, drought, all those things. She sailed through very well. She led the country nicely. Internationally, of course, there are quite a few leaders. Like I was impressed by what Lenin did for his country, what Mao did for his country, and then what Martin Luther Jr., what he did for his country. See, they're all contextual. Whatever Mao did doesn't apply to India, because our nature is different, our preferences are different, temperament is different. So, to the best of our, see, we have same, we are highly diversified society, India. In fact, if you remember, when India got independence, that entire India was not under British rule. 576 princely states were still independent. They are ruled by independent kings under their own constitution. That is where Sardar Patel, Indian Union. So, which means British has left the country, means they only left the British part of India. They still remain part of India. Such a diverse society became together. For example, the Hyderabad state was independent state until 1948 September. Though rest of India got independence in 47 August, that Hyderabad state became part of India after 1 year, 1 month. Till the time they are different. So these historical facts also have bearing in it. This is what Gandhian approach accommodates this. That is what is, that is what actually a unifying factor.
And I would also like to know your favorites among the contemporary leaders. So who
Modi, Narendra Modi.
And please explain your preference to me.
Narendra Modi is my favorite leader now. In the
Yeah,
contemporary
and
scenario.
why do you so much like why?
Yeah, because firstly, the clarity of thought he has. Then his agenda is very clear that sabke saath, sabke saman. No, this is it is not one of those Garibi Hatao type of wishy-washy slogan. It is really real implementing it also. Swachh Bharat. The results are seen on the ground. It is only unfortunate that the COVID came and almost 2 years our economy is totally gone down. There is no productivity. Notwithstanding that, this government under his leadership has done very well. And by the way, he is following Gandhian thought also when it comes to implementation, without calling himself.
Thank you. That's all
Wonderful.
from right now from me. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So, yeah, I think I can resonate with or reflect on some of the points that you said. Is you see some of the countries around India right now, post-COVID, you take Sri Lanka or Pakistan, it's almost like failed states, right? Things are very bad. And India being such a large country, big economy, with so many challenges, is still able to manage to stand on our feet and manage to go forward and improve our development phase. So I would like to take this opportunity to ask about what you have mentioned as one of the main role of leaders. You clearly said leadership has to align several forces, and you have clearly told about 3 binding forces, and you have classified them as propelling forces, buoyant forces, and auxiliary forces in typical naval terms and physics terms. So can you throw some light on this?
Yeah, see, firstly, an organization or a country or a state should remain afloat. It should not sink like Sri Lanka or Pakistan, as rightly brought out. So what makes this buoyant is like trust. People should trust the leadership. Leadership also should trust the people that they will follow, whatever he said. Just imagine, for no reason, Modi said everybody should clap in the evening. All clapped, because clap does not drive away the virus as such. But that unifying factor he brought in. So there's a trust factor. And then comes differences are to be sorted out peacefully with harmony. When, for example, Amit Shah talked about some language issue, and then Modi did a lot of damage control on this issue because he knew what is important. Even a small segment of team or part of nation should not be left out. Is not a dictator. Though many people try to say, is a dictatorial, doesn't it anybody, is not the case. He accommodates everyone, he gives enough leverage. In fact, he also modifies thinking also based upon what people think and their aspirations. And then justice and fairness, there's a sense of justice and fairness. Otherwise, a country like Pakistan would have killed Yasin Malik for whatever he did. But he was only given life sentence. So there is a fair sense of justice. The chance is given. These are the point. Once the ship is afloat, only then you can think of moving forward. That's why my picture also indicates the cover page is dominantly a ship. A organization or a country is like a ship. First, it should remain afloat. Once it's afloat, then you think of propelling. There are 4 propelling forces, like integrity of leadership, that entire team integrity, and the discipline. In fact, where lot of financial discipline imposed. Otherwise, they would have been gone red. In fact, our growth rate is more than what is anticipated according to latest reports in the newspaper, it says. And then confidence. A leader, if he doesn't have confidence, he will be ruined. He knew what is doing is right, and people will ultimately like it and it gives result. That confidence is what is propelling force. And then dignity of work. Everybody is not, all won't be, there's only one steering in a car, except the driving is a trainer, car. You find a trainer also will have a parallel, steering set. Otherwise, there's only one leader who drives it. But remaining people, they are equally important. The dignity of work is important. These are 4 things which will push propel the organization forward. Auxiliary ones means like any firefighting issues, like if they're damage control. So remain 3 or 4 forces I found. I have not left anything. Even if some member said this small thing is important. Yes, it is important. Like, physical activity is one, and people are slightly selfish also. If somebody is working for their own glory by doing something, they want a glory, fine. That is an auxiliary force. Because they want recognition, they do something. Like, people take part in, for example, in Olympics, they win a medal, bring pride to himself and also to the country. All these are auxiliary forces. Basically, force is what? Without force, nothing moves forward. No, force is the what which drives. Here, the few forces they keep the ship afloat. Few forces they move forward in the direction that you stay. Other things are there to firefighting or any, crisis management, damage control. So that's how I classify it.
Wonderful. So these four concepts which actually propel, most of the people look at all those tangible things, but those two other factors that you talked about, in fact, unless the ship is afloat, where is it going to go? In which direction it is going to be, propelled, and in which direction it is going to, the rudder is going to move. So that is very important. And also is the firefighting and other auxiliary things we talk about. So very, very nicely explained in terms of how interpersonal relationships work, and then what are the forces which leaders have to manage, because a leader has to think strategically. So he has to think, there is a popular saying, all the water on the in the ocean is not going to sink the ship. It is the water that enters the ship that is going to sink it. Otherwise, it's always going to stay afloat. So what are the things that needs to be kept away? How much of positive thinking needs to be built in? What kind of training interventions have to be given to the people? How to engage people? How to align them to the values and the dignity of work? How to look at their integrity? Because that is how world-class teams are built. In fact, somebody told me that Steve Jobs used to take hours and hours of interview and think for weeks together before he hired his core team. That is why today Apple is one of the most profitable companies, because the core team that was built by Steve Jobs and the co-founders were so strong in their integrity, in their discipline, in their vision. The alignment was so good. That is why they were able to make that organization great. So these things are very easy for us to see. Whenever an organization succeeds, they're able to stay afloat. The Fortune 500 companies, the list keeps changing all the time. And because of the modern times, we see many of the startups coming and taking over, many of the big giants crashing and disappearing from the radar. And your forces that you explained in your book is very easy for people to look at these real life examples. They can easily relate to those examples with the way you have given some of the inputs there. That was fantastic. Now, I will take that another word from your book. You have also talked about not just leadership and interpersonal relationships. You talked about a term called resilience.
Yes.
Can you throw some light on why you include?
Sure. The concept of resilience is like it is buoyancy plus elasticity. We say a team is resilient when it is buoyant. It means under adverse conditions also team remains as a team. It won't fragment. It will not disintegrate. That is one. Thereafter, after achieving the objectives or after undergoing all the hardship, it will come back to its original state. That's called elasticity. The elastic nature of the people in the team and the ability to remain afloat together is resilient. When the team is resilient, we say that the team has a lot of ability to absorb a lot of shocks, still come back to original position and remain buoyant, which is important for them to move forward. A resilient team is the one which is buoyant as well as elastic.
Perfect, because we need teams to be flexible. That is one of the most important, I think, features. When I have my own people on the field working in different teams, I can see that unless the managers at the local level who are firefighting at the day-to-day issues, they are flexible in their approach. If they are very rigid, I've seen people jump and leave the organization. And if they have taken the shocks, if they have counseled the people, if they have engaged them, if they have managed to coach them by being flexible in their approach, because what works for one person does not work for another. So the ability to use the leader at the local level to be able to touch different people in different ways, looking at their personality needs, look at how unique that person is and what works for them. I think that is very important for a team to keep up its energy and move forward. So wonderful. I think that is why this book is such a wonderful book for people
Yeah,
to read.
I want to distinguish between elasticity and flexibility. Elasticity is flexibility plus. When we say flexibility, like if you take aluminum rod, just you can bend it the way you want it and it remains there. But whereas elasticity means it bends according to the situation, it will come back to its original position. So that is where I emphasized on the word elasticity rather than only flexibility.
Yes,
Flexibility is
absolutely.
good, but elastic.
Absolutely. So what in essence you're saying is not break away. It should be able to absorb and it should be able to come back to its original position. So
This is where
that is where I think the leader is able to make the team intact because they have a vision, they have a mission, they have some values which they have to work on constantly because every day is a different challenge, especially in our challenging times. And to be able to get the team still to be intact and keep moving, I think that needs extraordinary skills. Now coming to, yes, sir.
In this book, I also brought up difference between types of teams also based upon their objectives. Like self-propelled team, I said one. It means the team, it is equipped with all the items, everything. They have to achieve the objective. Other one is guided one. It means like a team works and somebody from headquarters, etc., they keep on guiding in between. They are not given all necessary resources and also decision-making things together. But as and when they require, they have to fall back and, some central control is there. Third one is, fire and forget type, projectile type of team. Like some people are told, this is your objective. That's what we see in the sales. In the market, if you go out, and somebody will come into with some stack of books or stocks, etc. Sir, please buy it. If he sells it, fine. Doesn't sell, also fine. Is that kind of? That depends upon decision-making power. That is one. Also, when the leader is part of the team, when he is working, the team does better instead of totally doing from remote. That's why you find when it comes to project leadership, project leader is the one who is really part of it, and the loss and profit of the team depends also, has influence on his income. Not that he gets what money irrespective of what team does it. Indian bureaucracy, that's what happens. That's why you find that things are getting delayed.
True. I think I can definitely understand that because I get a lot of teams. I do on a lot of strategic management, sit in one place and keep driving my team, calling them up, maybe using technology, phones or Zoom meetings and things like that. Most of the time what happens is somewhere they feel that, okay, this guy is not there. He's not able to see the reality I am able to see on the field. So I also make it a point to suddenly drop in. I will not even tell my team I'm going to be there on the field. One fine morning, I'll just wake up, I'll go there and I will do the same call. And they will all think I'm sitting in head office, but I'll say, no, I'm in the street. And whatever you're saying is exactly not the way it is. And then they say, wow. So now after one or two of those tricks I have pulled, people understand that, okay, this guy may land up anytime. So they are very careful about what is it that they project. So I think employee engagement also is very important for a leader to also sometime, even if you are a strategic leader, you get down, sometimes you have to get your hands dirty. You have to be able to, like a pilot, you have to take off, you have to land, and you also are sometimes in the clouds, you're able to get a aerial view. So you need to keep all strategies ready so that you can continuously motivate your team. I can understand that from the way you have presented some of the facts in the book, right? Now, another question that I had is, you talked about the 11 laws that Gandhiji had proposed and 2 were added later. So can you throw some light of the relevance of some of those good governance points or the laws that Gandhiji had brought in, and how, because when he was maybe 50, 60 years back, it was India is a country of villages. Now you see rapid urbanization happening.
True.
You see people moving in from villages to the cities, flocking to the cities. You see smart cities coming up everywhere. You see all the small villages in and around Hyderabad, Mumbai, they all become part of the, agglomerate, urban agglomerate. So this kind of migration is happening. What do you think of how these laws apply even today in this context of where people are doing this migration?
See, for the self-reliance, in fact, self-reliance is also one of his management principles. So under that, a nation, if it's self-reliant, it will do better. So under those conditions, he came out with certain economic policy, and he called them constructive programs. He listed 18 of them. Mostly they are all village-based because that time 90% of the country was village. But today, with semi-urbanization or non-rurals have become also a part of urban because of education level and transportation facilities and communication facilities. But the basic concept of self-reliance on economy and producing what you want at home has not changed. In fact, once that is given up, country will be ruined. That's what happens with Pakistan. Their imports are 90%, their exports are only 10%. So their dollars disappear. So they end up in that kind of situation. Today, India, if you remember, at one point of time, Modi said like we can supply wheat to entire world for some time. But of course, for different reason, it did not ban as such, but private export has been banned. The government of any nation wants, it will talk to government of India will supply. Earlier, what was happening? A private player here, he would supply to another private player in Bangladesh. It is really happening. A friend of mine is into this rice and wheat export business. Bangladesh is buying from India, means a merchant in Bangladesh, merchant from India, and that fellow is selling to African countries at double the price. And this fellow also selling to African countries at much lower price. So with this, what happens? No, people's money, government money has been lost. This is what Modi stopped it because of the overall crisis in the world. So what I mean to say is that the production in the country is important. So is emphasized on health for everyone, and then education for everyone. Now in the new education policy, even Modi talks about primary education in mother tongue, which Gandhi advocated some 67, almost 80 years back. Naitalam, he said, means new education. That is up to primary level, it should be, mother tongue, so that teachers are also available locally. And then if it is a different language, you have to import teachers, their facility, etc., which is not possible. So that way, plus skill-based. The Skill India program is basically centered around that only. Now, right now, our education, like even after +2, also BA, BCom, etc., what a person can do, he can't even, replace tap in his own house, or he cannot do some wiring also in the house. He cannot even perhaps fill the AC gas in his own car, even if he's an engineer. Finally, engineer also will take it to that mechanic with 10th class failed and 10th class passed. So the skill is very important. So, but our current government is also emphasizing that they have a plan to introduce skilling also a part of school curriculum. So that's the relevance of it. And then two things, so nature cure and the Bhudan were introduced later on. Because nature cure, again, our health is a factor. If we rely upon only allopathic, government has no, the infra is not enough to go to village level. Village level today, compounder is doing, RMP they call, registered medical practitioner. So he does whatever he wants it at any price. So, but good old system of naturopathy is also promoted along with that, which government of India is doing today. In every government hospital, there is a wing called homeopathy wing also there, otherwise, Ayurvedic also. That's what he basically meant.
So I thought it was 13. It is 18, is it?
It is 18, and then 3 were introduced later on.
Okay. So I can absolutely understand the concept that you just spoke about, especially in terms of the new education policy. I've seen people, we have almost every house as an engineer. My father was a diploma in electrical, but he could do so much of electrical work than an engineering graduate. So as you rightly said, skill is important. I had the opportunity to work with the MG and CRE, authored some books there. So waste management can also become a formal education in some of the diploma program and a degree program, even an MBA program we have introduced now. So we understand that there are many opportunities out there, and even people who are flocking from the rural areas to the cities, they should be given education that will actually feed them, which will make them employable, which can make them go and supply this manpower out to other countries in the world. Because you rightly said that India needs to be self-sufficient. And the way we gave COVID vaccines to the world, the way we were able to export food to the world, I think that is happening in a good way, which is fantastic. If we don't, if we are not self-reliant, then that is definitely going to be a challenge for our country. So that was a very interesting insight that you brought about, and education should be able to make you employable and should bring out innovation, should bring out some practical way of life. It should not be just theory. And that's, I think, with the new educational policy taking shape, I'm sure that's going to be a reality very soon.
If you remember that Viproka, Premji, that's what he saw that all engineers are not really fit into the job. So the teaching skills, he invests a lot of money to employ people like us to go and tell the teachers how to teach, to make them more skillful.
So I definitely understand when demand is there for something and the supply is not of the same quality. It's like an importer. Some country wants to import something from you and they don't like your raw material, and therefore they reject it. So similarly, when children pass out, they have these degrees, but they don't have the skill to match those degrees. Definitely, they're not going to be selected. I think that is a very important point to notice. And second thing, probably, I think that is giving rise to an important question, because you talked about a lot of personality assessments in your book. So do you think it is important for youngsters to be assessed so that they can scientifically understand their personality? So can you throw some light on psychological tests which can help people understand this?
Yeah, it is like already there is a type of test where people are tested to see their aptitude for a course. And then I don't remember its name. Even Navy also they conduct a test. Based upon the result, we decide whether he is fit to be seaman or a medical branch or aeronautical branch or something. So it is an aptitude test, a type of aptitude test. Now, aptitude and personality, they got some interconnection. Like for example, I have no aptitude for certain, like I'm not a dancer, I have no aptitude for it. But I have an aptitude for drawing. So no point in me, sending into dancing classes as opposed to drawing class, because there's no drawing facility in the school, for example. So PAT test, we say, professional aptitude test, something. Now the personality test is very important because it is good that a person understands himself. If you ask me, sometime after +2 level, or maybe a couple of times at +2 level or after PG level, couple of times, a personality test should be administered as a, right now, Big 5 is found to be more scientifically more reliable. It also evolved over a period of time. So a person knows himself, and again after 4 or 5 years, again he takes the test. He can, to a certain extent, he can modify and re-engineer if he can do it, whatever he can do. In the formative stages, it is possible also. And then that helps not only him, and then it will remove certain prejudices against other people. Because he knows, like, I'm introvert. Introvert is not inefficiency. Extrovert doesn't mean that he is a super duper. Like Ravant Reddy can speak a lot, but when it comes to doing work, like Manmohan Singh is a silent person, but when he does things, he does more scientifically as opposed to Jaitley or anybody else. So the personality tests are very important. At different phases of life, one should take them. And at school level, maybe school leaving level, college leaving level. And when it comes to a party or an organization, at the time of recruitment, they should do it. In addition to HR, should have a standard policy for this. Perhaps they can maintain some secrecy, etc., etc. If it is very offensive, some people know, they unfortunately have seen in our school system. When we say psychological test means, people feel offended. What is psychological test? Why psychologist is coming? My son is all right. So what if he makes noise? So a lot of misconception is there among some people. So perhaps they can use a different nomenclature, or they can educate people what exactly psychology means.
Yeah, I think
Especially,
you hit the nail upon the head. If you say it is an aptitude test, scholastic test, an entrance test, people actually try to go to get coached for appearing in the test. So that rat race syndrome is there. But if you say personality test or a psychologist, they're a little concerned. Yeah, Manvinder has a question. She's raised her hands. Yeah, please go ahead.
I was just listening to your talks when you were telling about the skill development. Can you share your Navy experiences based on these? Because I suppose Navy does a lot of help in building up your skills. So just share some of your experiences with us.
see, Navy, Army, Air Force, or any paramilitary force is basically skill-based only. The day we join the service, everything goes around. These are training, handling of weapons and maintenance of equipment and war games, dummy exercises. Everything is skill only. So the necessity of skill is first recognized in armed forces. From there on, it came to civil world. Like you might have seen, typically seen old soldier taking a gun and keep on cleaning it with certain equipment, and then at firing range they keep on shooting it, only to develop skill. Because when it comes to the net practice for cricketers, otherwise what happens if he does not keep himself abreast, and then very first ball is out means and that team is lost the 10 to 50 or 50 runs, valuable runs. But in war, you can't afford to do that. In cricket, you can lose series this year, next year, again you can play. In war, once you lose, they're devastating.
I think that's a wonderful point that you made. That's why teams are always ever ready. When you look at the forces, they're always keeping themselves ever ready, ready for action anytime. That comes only from continuous practice and focus on what they're doing. And yeah, as you rightly said, most of the managerial techniques, most of the leadership concepts, most of the interpersonal relationship concepts, you take any management concept, probably it is tested and completely tried threadbare in the armed forces before it comes into the civilian world. So we know that what works for people, they know in which way it should be deployed and how it should be deployed and what will be the result for deploying those techniques. Everything is so well, researched before it comes to the civil life. So yes,
this is because in a corporate world, a wrong decision means financial loss, maybe loss of a job to some people. But in armed forces, whichever country it is, a wrong decision means loss of life and loss of battle. It is irreparable. So that's why
yes,
they pay a lot of attention to be very correct. Right decision. Decision making is a huge theory. People work on it. A lot of dummy exercises keep doing it. What is right decision? What is wrong decision? Probability theory comes in, and then whoever sees enemy first and fights first is wins. So that reconnaissance, vigilance, seeing first. Okay, you see first and fire first, but that fellow is beyond your range, and you are within his range, so you are out. So that is also very important. That is where technology comes in.
so it is, as you rightly said, it is not just about the skill, but it is about the decision making as well. That's where the leadership comes in.
Yes.
So to know everything is not important, but to know where to use which tool at what time and in which context, all those things is what makes a leader. And good leadership, as you rightly said, comes from making bad decisions also. So we make good decisions, bad decisions, we fail forward, we keep coming up with different scenarios. That is why gamification of decision making is becoming very popular in corporate as well. Today, many of the corporates also run simulations like you do in war games. They are also doing simulation-based training to see how decisions are made by the managers and leaders, and to cover so that they know that they can sweat in the training hall and they don't have to bleed in the battleground. So that's what modern management prepares all of them to be ready, to be able to be sharp, to be focused, and to also look in all the factors before they take a decision. So wonderful. Anything else that you would like to share? Maybe your next book, what is it going to be on? What are you writing right now? What are you reading? Some of the books that you're reading right now. Would you like to share something?
Yeah, my next book is about, I'm a physicist now. Now I thought I'll write a book connected to that. That is also my theoretical experimentation, I would say. See, to conduct any real-time experiment, we need a lot of money. Number one, somebody has to fund a lot, which I could not get any sponsor. The sponsor should not own it when I am owning it, correct? So, plus no, I was not in that phase actually. If I were in the industry, if I joined a research field may be different, but based upon that, I'm writing a book called Fifth Quantum Number. Right now, we have studied up to 4 quantum numbers: NLMS, principal quantum number, azimuthal quantum number, magnetic quantum number, and spin quantum number. It does explain certain things, but there are certain uncertainties and things are not fully explained. So I envisaged another quantum number. Means quantum number is basically a number which has something to do with some energy levels. Basically, it's not only any number XYZ. When you say magnetic quantum number, means electron got magnetic orientation is a property. Spin has got some number. When we say principal quantum number, means that KLMN, each orbit has got some energy level. When it moves from one energy to another energy level, it emits or absorbs some energy. So quantum number is nothing but a different type of energy levels are also present, which can be represented by a number. So I'm working on it. Probably, I don't know, my next target, as soon as possible, I'll bring out the book, publish it.
Wonderful. So I love to see that scientific flavor that's going to come up with quantum numbers. Yes, very, very difficult subject to understand, and probably very close to spirituality, I should also say.
No, it is not spiritual. It is purely science and physics. And probably
that's what, the more scientific you become, the more scientific exploration you do, somewhere you get into the realm of spirituality as well. You may not be proposing anything spiritual, but science is what takes you, your exploration. The more you go anywhere, whether you go into physics or you go into chemistry, whether you go into biology, somewhere humans start understanding the greatness of all that we have in our universe.
We are all physical, basically.
Absolutely. And right, so
thank you.
Thank you so much. We have had a wonderful time talking about your book and what's the next book that's coming up. What are some of the concepts you talked about in terms of personality, how leaders should be self-aware, how resilience is important, and the difference between elasticity and plasticity. You talked about some of the Gandhian concepts, even though they are so many decades old, how still they are relevant in building our nation to be self-reliant. So lots of takeaways from today's session. Manvinderji, would you like to share some closing quotes before we let's go?
Yeah, it was certainly a pleasure for the platform of Create and Narrate to have you, sir. It's been such an in-depth, discussion about how, the life of a person should be molded and how the skill set should be developed and what are the influences life has on us and how we should mold upon in him. And we would definitely like you to come here again when you release your the book and share some of the wisdom nuggets with us again. So thank you, sir. I would like to thank you for coming today and sharing your experiences, sharing your wisdom and experience over the years with us today on this wonderful morning and a great start of the day today, sir. And that's it. So
thank you. Pratibhaji, would you like to share something? If you have a question for our author or not, you want to share some message, you can do so in the chat box. And I would like to take this last few seconds to remind all of you about this wonderful book. I will once again read the title. It's called The Secrets of Resilient Interpersonal Relationships. And if you are someone who is into leadership, into a managerial role, and if you want to go up in the leadership pipeline, if you are an entrepreneur, and if you are a team player, I think this is a book that you should definitely go and get. So you can apply those very, very simple concepts that have been explained in the book, and you can make a better team, build a better team, and be more successful. Thank you so much, sir, for your time today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Muthu, and thank you, Manvinder ji.